It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP As We See It, a weekly syndicated show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football, and the national scene and other sports. We'd like to welcome you to another episode of AP As We See It, and we'd like to direct our audience to our social media platforms at AP As We See It on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, X account, Instagram, as well as my personal ones at AP Stedham. So we have that on the Facebook, the X account, the Instagram, and also a YouTube channel. Occasionally I put things on there as well, but all the events that we cover will be on our YouTube channel, and our shows on every week at AP As We See It, plus Spotify. You can find it at AP As We See It as well. So we'd like to make sure our audience is aware of all our social media platforms, because you can find the coverage of the games and events that we cover throughout the seasons. So check those out. We'd like to make mention of our sponsors: Greer's Markets, 29 locations, 109 years, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. They've been serving the Gulf Coast and beyond. They have Lucy's Famous Recipes. You can find those online. Remember, family, friends, and football is a winning tradition at Greer's. You can score big savings on fresh meats, produce, and more for your game day spreads. If you can't drop by one of those 29 locations, you can go to Groceries to Go, and you can have those sent to your home, your office, the venue of your choice. And this year they have the holiday recipe contest that begins at the end of November and all the way through the 22nd of December. So there's some prizes. You receive some Greer's gift cards for having the best holiday recipe. So check that out as well. Also, remember, you can there's a coloring contest for children. There's the weekly ads online. And so you can also look at those, especially with the holidays coming up and all any occasion, the birthdays, the special occasions, the holidays, the football games. Everybody loves watching those ball games and having all the food and the layouts and the spreads for your family and your friends. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. We'd also like to mention Robertsdale Dental Care with Dr. Jason Northcutt at 251-947-3636. Dr. Jason Northcutt, not only are basic services offered by Dr. Jason Northcutt, but he has developed a special niche within the practice, providing comprehensive dental implant services, such as single implants, bone grafting, and full mouth reconstruction. Dr. Jason Northcutt has been highly trained in those disciplines to offer comfortable and long-lasting solutions to major dental problems. Come by and see Dr. Jason Northcutt and staff. Dial 251-947-3636. We'd also like to mention the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta, all those beautiful, spacious rooms that they provide, the indoor pool with the tropical, serene setting right in the heart of Atlanta. There's restaurants and gift shops, an outstanding breakfast. There's the lounge, and Ben Giacomo and his staff do a tremendous job with their hospitality. On the weekends, they cook to order. Especially the breakfast is outstanding. I know I've been there many, many times, and that's the place where I stay when I'm in the city of Atlanta ATL. So check out Ben Giacomo and his staff at the Cortland Grand Hotel. So we like to get to our show now. We got so many things to discuss in a short amount of time, but I always like to start the show mainly with our Football Writers Association National Football Foundation Super 16 poll that I present every week as part of my ballot. So this week we had Ohio State, number 1 as always, Indiana, number 2, Georgia, number 3, Oregon, number 4, Ole Miss 5, Texas A&M 6, Oklahoma 7, Alabama 8, Texas Tech, number 9, Notre Dame, number 10, BYU 11, Texas 12, Vanderbilt 13, Virginia 14, Miami 15, and Utah 16. So that's my ballot that I presented this past weekend, and my last ballot will be coming up after these championship games and championship weekend. So, but we had a lot of coaching hires this week, 6 coaches in the SEC. If you notice that there were 4 head coaches coming over from other programs, and we had 2 coordinators. So we'll just go through the list. Auburn hired Alex Golish from South Florida. Arkansas hired Ryan Silverfield of Memphis. Florida hired John Summerall of Tulane. Kentucky hired Oregon offensive coordinator Will Stein. LSU hired head coach Lane Kiffin, and Ole Miss promoted Ole Miss defensive coordinator Pete Golding. So that was quite a list. That's the most I've seen in a while in the Southeastern Conference for 1 year. 6 new changes with the head coaches. But like I said, 4 head coaches and 2 assistant. They were coordinators, 1 promoted within the program. I just want to mention the fact that Lane Kiffin, and we're going to discuss him in one of our segments as well, but for those who don't know about it, maybe not familiar with the Southeastern Conference, let's say, but for a coach from Ole Miss to relocate and become the head coach of LSU, it's the equivalent of let's say the Alabama coach saying, I want to be the next coach of Tennessee. They're fierce rivals for decades. I mean, it just didn't happen. And the LSU and Ole Miss, they'll be one of the permanent matchups with the new SEC 9-game schedule, just as Alabama and Tennessee. Or Alabama and Auburn. But it's a huge rival, and it's just not going to another SEC school. You're going to their rival close by, the next state. So for Lane Kiffin to make that move, I think people should understand that there's a significant issue with the Ole Miss fans. Not only did you leave to go within the conference, but you went to one of our biggest rivals. I know Mississippi State at the end of the year, the Egg Bowl, there's their arch rival as well. But LSU and Ole Miss, that game is famous for many, many years and decades in the history of college football and the history of the SEC. So I want to make that note to people from around the country if they're not familiar with those 2 teams within the SEC. We want to also make mention of the college football rankings came out. This is the last one before the final edition on Sunday, where you're going to get the matchup of not only the playoffs, but the additional bowl games as well. Ohio State, number 1, Indiana, number 2, Georgia, number 3, Texas Tech, number 4, Oregon, number 5, Ole Miss, number 6, Texas A&M, number 7, Oklahoma, number 8, Alabama, 9, Notre Dame, 10, BYU, 11, Miami, 12, Texas, 13, Vanderbilt, 14, Utah, 15, USC, 16, Virginia, 17, Arizona, 18, Michigan, 19, Tulane, 20, 21 is Houston, 22 Georgia Tech, 23 Iowa, 24 North Texas, and 25 James Madison. When you look at the college football rankings, you notice that Alabama in the top 10 is Alabama from the SEC, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Georgia. Alabama sitting at number 9. They're going to be playing Georgia in the SEC championship game, which we will discuss in the last segment. But that's a very delicate spot heading into the league championship games, because there's so many things that can happen. And if you look at this James Madison in North Texas at 24 and 25 spot, they're taking the top 5 conferences, the champions that are ranked. And Duke right now will be playing Virginia. Well, you don't see Duke in this poll. If Duke would happen to upset Virginia in this ACC championship game, Duke might not make the championship. They're not ranked. You might have North Texas and James Madison. You have the fact that BYU out of the Big 12 is playing Texas Tech, the number 4 team. So things can get really dicey if Alabama doesn't win that SEC game. Now you say, would they leave out an SEC team that has 3 losses that made the championship? Well, we might find out. And I would recommend to Alabama to win that ball game, so you don't put it in the hands of the committee. You'll be the automatic qualifier. We know that Georgia will only have the 2 losses, so they're going to make the playoff. College, they'll earn a berth to the college football playoff. We know that Ole Miss is safe, Texas A&M and Oklahoma as well. But there's some other teams that are contending besides Alabama in that 9 through 12 range. BYU being one of them, having a chance to clinch their position by playing Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. I'll actually be at the Big 12 championship in Dallas myself. But Miami's in there, lurking around. They beat Notre Dame early, the first game of the season. Notre Dame is favored by the committee at this moment into the number 10 spot, but Miami is in contention as well. So, and then, like I say, if Duke upsets the Virginia Cavaliers or Duke Blue Devils, gosh, the last time Duke won the ACC title, I think it was 1989 under Steve Spurrier at the time was a head coach. But I'd just be leery if I was Alabama and losing this game, and because you never know what could happen. Virginia's not a big favorite in the ball game either. It does, I don't know the exact point spread, but it's fairly close. Duke has 5. I think they have 5 losses, but they're 6-2 in the conference. I think it is. So James Madison, they have to win their conference championship, and North Texas will play Tulane. Tulane's at number 20. So North Texas or Tulane that could be the champion of the American Athletic Conference. They would be higher rated than Duke probably. James Madison would probably retain the ranking as well. So those are 2 teams that could make it because you would just have the Big 10, the SEC, and the Big 12. So you're looking for that 4th and 5th conference, and Duke would be behind a couple of those teams, the Sun Belt Conference and the also the American Athletic Conference. So I'd be leery. But anyway, we're going to be right back after these messages with our first guest, Molly Harrell, the Executive Director of the Broyles Award, and she's in segment 2. And segment 3, we're going to have Fletcher Mackel of WDSU NBC, affiliate Channel 6 from New Orleans to discuss Lane Kiffin. So we'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. Hi, I'm AP Stedham with Dr. Northcutt of Robertsdale Dental Care.
AP, not only do we offer basic full-service dental treatment, but I also have developed a niche within the practice where I provide comprehensive dental implant services, such as single implants, bone grafting, and full mouth reconstruction. I've been highly trained in those disciplines to offer comfortable and long-lasting solutions to major dental problems.
Come by and see Dr. Northcutt at Robertsdale Dental Care. And we're back with AP as we see it, and we have a very special guest with us today, Molly Harrell, the Executive Director of the Broyles Award. And oh, by the way, she's the granddaughter of the legendary University of Arkansas football coach, Director of Athletics, Frank Broyles. Molly, we welcome you to AP as we see it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I wore my Razorback red today in honor of my grandpa.
I noticed that. I sure did. We appreciate it. But Molly, I was telling you when we met at the game, the Iron Bowl this past weekend, that when your grandfather with his sugary voice and melodic ways of explaining college football, it just set the tone along with Keith Jackson. It was so much pleasure to hear both of them and your grandfather. He was so visionary and legendary. He brought Arkansas into the SEC. I mean, he had made that courageous jump.
Yes. And, he loved commentating. He loved explaining. He loved helping the average fan understand the game. He loved the strategy of it. And so I know that commentating, especially with Keith Jackson, was a real joy in his life. So thank you for saying that.
Oh yeah. No, you're welcome, Molly. Molly, we'll get back to your grandfather for a second, but I want you to mention the Broyles Award. There's some new things this year, and you tell the audience if you would.
Okay, so it's our 30th anniversary, which is pretty incredible. Our first award was in 1996. Mickey Andrews was the first winner, but it's our 30th anniversary, and we wanted to do something special to honor these coaches. And so, for the first time, we have a fan vote. And sometimes you hear fan vote and you think, oh, does it really matter? What is it? And what's really neat about it is that each round. So the coach that gets the most votes gets one collective vote, just like our selection committee. And so it's such a great opportunity for fans to jump in and support their coaches. And we know, all college football fans are out there. They know the names of the assistant coaches and coordinators, and they're analyzing their plays or lack of plays. And so this is a great way to honor them and shine the spotlight on all of their hard work.
Mm-hmm. And the coaches that are selected, the assistant coaches, there are two things, I guess. They make the team better and they impact winning.
Yes, that's exactly right. And, they mentor these kids. And I think that's so important, with all the crazy things that are going on in college football. We never want to lose sight of the things that really matter. And that's the impact that these coaches have on the kids.
Mm-hmm. And Molly, I guess there's 50 voters plus the fan vote. Is that correct? 51 total votes?
Yes, about and then the fan vote. That's right. And so you can go to broylesaward.com/vote. You can vote once every 24 hours for your favorite coach, and voting is open now. So we just released our 15 semifinalists, and we're now voting for those 15 semifinalists to become part of our 5 finalists, and voting closes on Sunday.
On Sunday. At what time on Sunday, Molly? Do you know? Is there a specific time?
11 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Okay. And the Football Writers Association members vote, the broadcasters, Hall of Fame coaches, and the fan media members as well, right? So that's awesome. What have you learned being around this award, Molly, about assistant coaches? And maybe what did your grandfather tell you about selecting assistant coaches, maybe?
Well, so my favorite thing about the award, then we can get to my grandpa, which is more interesting, I know, is that it really has changed the way that I watch college football. I grew up a Razorback fan, of course, and, that was my team. And then since I've been involved with the award, I, of course, am still a Razorback fan, but I'm really a college football fan. You get to know these assistant coaches, and we feel like they're part of our Broyles Award family. And you learn about why they got into coaching and their families and, their backgrounds and their philosophies, and you start following their careers around to different teams, and you start watching football teams you would never have watched before and learning about their traditions. And so I think the really wonderful thing about the award is that it shines the light on college football and the things that, make it go, and the strategy, and it gives you as a fan an opportunity to kind of branch outside of your team.
Right. I guess when you have these conversations, sometimes you'll ask the assistant coach, hey, did you call that play on offense or defense? Or tell me something special about this quarterback or this defensive lineman or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really, it's been, we're really honored. And I know my grandpa, was when he was alive too, to play a small role in shining the light on these assistants. And he really loved his assistants. He was an assistant before he became a head coach. And so and his dream was to become a head coach. So when he would hire assistants, he would say, give me 3 years and I'll help you get your dream job, whatever that is. Give me a 3-year commitment. And oftentimes they would come to him and offer him a raise, and he would say, please give it to my assistants. He always wanted to show his appreciation and then help them create the career and get the job that they wanted. And I think that's why there's an award named after him, because he had that loyalty. He got 3 years out of him, longer for some, of course. But Barry Switzer, Joe Gibbs, Hayden Fry, Jimmy Johnson, all of these,
great ones.
And he just really valued the work of assistants.
Mm-hmm. He had the 3-year scholarship program.
Yeah, exactly.
Molly, new location this year, and the date for the award is February 12th, 2026, but a new location.
Yes. So last year was our first year in Hot Springs. We spent 28 years in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we moved to Hot Springs, Arkansas, just down the road to Oak Lawn. It's a thoroughbred racing, casino, resort, spa, incredible food. And so it's a lot of fun. We get to have some college football on February 12th on Thursday, and then some really beautiful horse racing on Friday.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. 2 great sports.
Yes,
Molly,
love to have you.
Oh, thank you for that invitation. Believe me, you won't have to ask me twice.
Good.
I can tell you that. But Molly, when you have this banquet, you invite the 5 finalists, or how was that done?
We do. So all 5 finalists come, and last year's winner. And we hear a little bit about them. You know, they all talk, and then we announce the winner live at the banquet, which is a lot of fun.
I love that. Molly, how long did you know your grandfather? This is an interesting question to me because I remember Bill Walton, for instance, he said he knew his head coach, John Wooden, and Gail Goodrich. They told me we knew him for 50 years to know their head coach, you know. And I was at the latter stages of Coach Bryant's era, and I know I saw the impact that he made with the people that were around him for maybe 3 or 4 years. But some of these players, they knew their head coach 50 years. But how long did you know your grandfather?
So he passed away when I was in my mid 20s. But what was really special for me was that the Broyles Award benefits the Broyles Foundation, which serves Alzheimer's caregivers all at no cost. And so I got to spend a few years working with him and traveling around the country and speaking to caregivers on how you care for your loved one, the impact. We actually had the first 3 generational speech on how Alzheimer's affects all 3 generations. The spouse, the child, and the grandchildren. So I got some really special time with him, getting to do something that was very near and dear to our family's hearts. We lost my grandmother from Alzheimer's, and then him in 2017 from Alzheimer's as well. So outside of football, and of course, there's wonderful memories watching games and things like that. But being able to travel around with him and further the mission of the foundation was really special.
And that's the Frank and Barbara Broyles Foundation, like a legacy foundation, and it tries to help the Alzheimer's caregivers, which are sometimes forgotten in this
when we
situation.
Went with my grandmother in the early 2000s, we had nothing. There was no help. And so my family wrote a book, and it's all sports related. It's Coach Broyles' playbook for Alzheimer's caregivers, and a lot of sports analogies in there. And so we do everything at no cost because my grandpa believed a resource should never be a financial burden. And so, of course, if you're out there and you know anyone that needs help with Alzheimer's, please visit our website, broylesfoundation.org, and let us know how we can help.
I'll just make mention how much your grandfather looked after assistants. He had a program with Coach Bryant, and we discussed this, where they traded a graduate assistants. That one would come from Alabama to Arkansas to Alabama. But I thought that was really a cool thing. But in the last...
I didn't know that.
You didn't know? Okay, that's great. That's great. About 2 minutes or so remaining, Molly. What do you like to tell people about your grandfather, your grandpa?
Someone asked me this question the other day, and I have a different answer. So he was very funny. And I don't think a lot of people knew that. He was a very dry sense of humor and really good at those kind of one-liners that you kind of stop and think about. A very dry kind of one-liners sense of humor.
Yeah, that's I think, especially in the South, my daddy's from Alabama. He would say these things, and I was raised in Connecticut, and he would say these things, and I thought everybody's dad had these one-liners. I just didn't realize that. You come to appreciate it over the years, but it was something special when you heard Frank Broyles was announcing a game. And of course, he was in that famous game that I told you, 69. I'll never forget. Arkansas hosted Texas, and they were the top rated teams. And that game was moved by Beano Cook. He told the executives Ohio State would not be undefeated. They were undefeated the prior year. And he said, I don't think they're going to be undefeated. Sure enough, Michigan upset them. They moved that game from Arkansas to December the 6th. And I think that was probably the only game on TV. And it went down as an historic moment of that century. The big shootout, they call it, yes. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that was an unbelievable time, and I just adore your grandfather. And I had a chance to meet him one time, and he was just sensational. And he used that word, and every time I say that word, I think of your grandfather.
You don't hear it very often. We need to bring it back because it's a good one.
Oh, yeah. But anything you want to say, Molly, about 30 seconds here, just before we conclude our segment?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me so much. Get out and vote for these coaches. It's, broylesaward.com/fan vote, and follow along on our social media. We pick a game of the week, and this week is Virginia and Duke, and we highlight fun facts about the game and coaches and who they are. And, let's get out and support the things that matter in the midst of all the crazy football and shed some light on these coaches.
Molly Harrell, the Executive Director of the Broyles Award. We thank you so much for being on AP As We See It, and we'll be right back after these messages with AP As We See It. Thank you, Molly. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP As We See It, and our very special guest, a friend of the show, Fletcher Mackel of WDSU NBC, Channel 6 in New Orleans, award-winning sports anchor and reporter. Hey, Fletcher, a little bit's going on, I heard. So welcome to AP As We See It so we can discuss the happenings.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Fletcher, when did you realize that Lane Kiffin would be the choice? When did you hear those inklings?
I mean, I heard those inklings from the day they fired Brian Kelly almost, but I don't know if I actually believed it. I don't think I actually believed it until Sunday when the planes were headed for him leaving Baton Rouge, because again, college football is a wild, it's like the Wild West. It's, you know, it's crazy right now. That's like no rules, anything goes, anything can happen. So I'd heard his name all along, that he's the guy, that's who they want. I just think that I don't know if I believed it. I thought, you know what? He's built something special there. He's going to come to his senses. They're going to work it out. Maybe it's a leverage play. So I heard about it. I just didn't really believe it until Sunday when it became real.
Right. Why is Lane Kiffin the right choice, Fletcher, if he is the right choice in your mind? I
mean, look, I don't know if anybody's the right choice. I mean, look, Ed Orgeron wasn't the right choice.
That's right.
People hated that. They wanted Tom Herman, and Tom Herman went to Texas, and Ed Orgeron was the fallback. Yet Ed Orgeron won the national championship and recruited the greatest team that LSU has ever fielded. So I don't know if he's the right choice. I certainly think Lane Kiffin is an amazingly accomplished coach and an offensive innovator in college football. So I think he's shown he can coach the X's and O's. He can outcoach other coaches. He can recruit like a madman. He knows NIL in the portal. He resonates with his players. So I think all of those things show he's somebody with what LSU has, with, you know, the facilities and the money and the synergy and the fertile recruiting base they have here and the history of success. I think you look at all those things and you say, it's a pretty good marriage. But here's the thing. 4 years ago, Brian Kelly was supposed to be that guy. It was, he's gotten Notre Dame to the playoffs. He's accomplished. He just, once he gets away from the academics of Notre Dame and the stringent rules of Notre Dame, boy, he's the guy. Just wait. And that didn't work out. So, but again, look, I think Lane Kiffin knows the SEC. I think Lane Kiffin's an accomplished coach. And I think the opportunity for success for Lane Kiffin is very real.
Mm-hmm. The success at LSU since the Nick Saban came on board, you know, LSU was a dormant program for probably 40 years, maybe. They had some good teams, some nice teams, All-Americans, of course, and always talented, but they couldn't reach that championship level. Now there's a new standard of success at LSU. That's the only standard at LSU, is it not? National championship?
That's it. It's national championship or bust. Nick Saban got here and transformed this program. He showed them what winners look like and what it feels like to win. And also, college football has changed. I mean, when I was, like, I'm 50 years old. When I was growing up, it was all about Nebraska, Oklahoma, Michigan, Ohio State. It was kind of like, you know, middle America and in going up to the Midwest. And yeah, the SEC was good, but boy, since the mid 90s, the SEC has just, to me, steamrolled everybody. The investment, the ability to keep talent in these states. And I think that Saban caught that SEC run, and he was one of the people who led it in and led the charge for that. And yeah, I look, from Saban to Miles to Orgeron, I mean, they all won national championships, and LSU has invested a ton, and LSU cares about it. And so, yeah, I think the standard is set, and it's pretty high.
You know, Fletcher, I think that you can make a claim or a supposition that Lane Kiffin is one of the better coaches because he's the transfer portal king or near that top. And then you have the fertile recruiting ground, as you mentioned, per capita in Louisiana. It's almost a can't fail situation if you can coach.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can fail. I mean, everybody failed. So here's the thing, too. I agree with you. Lane Kiffin could make LSU the next Alabama. Nick Saban went there, and you used the word dormant. Bama had been dormant for a long time. I mean, a long, long time. And Saban brought them success that they had never seen before. Kirby Smart goes to Georgia and now has them with success they've never had before. I really believe that Lane Kiffin can produce that at LSU. But here's the thing. Les Miles was fired. Ed Ogeron was fired. Brian Kelly was fired. It's not a show up and it's going to happen. I mean, you got to work to make it happen. I do think Lane Kiffin, all of the ingredients are there for him to turn LSU into the next Alabama or into the next Georgia. But the ingredients were there for Brian Kelly, and it didn't work out. So, again, I think it's there. But I don't necessarily want to say it's done. They'll be in the national championship next year. They're going to win multiple national championships. Yes. Could they? Absolutely. Will it be a letdown if they don't? Yes. But again, I just don't know if it's just anoint them now.
Mm-hmm. One caveat I think that the fans will come to realize, Fletcher, and you know this very well, it's competitive now. You can change your roster and you can acquire talent year to year to just plug those areas where you have deficiencies. I think that's slightly different than somebody at Alabama, Nick Saban, or even Georgia when they were dominating on the recruiting level.
I think you're 100% right. Look, it used to be the player and the player's family were ready to make a commitment for 4 years, you know?
Right, yeah.
Now, like recruiting to me is like, who cares? If you miss them this year, go pay for them next year. Go get them out the portal next year. Players can transfer unlimited times. And the way the money is thrown around now, recruiting's important, but you can make up for it in the portal. And Lane Kiffin has made up for it in the portal because he hasn't been able to keep his best athletes in Mississippi, and he hasn't been able to do it. He has the opportunity now to recruit the best high school players and go pull in the best guys from the portal. So there aren't a lot of excuses. And look, that's why Ole Miss is in the playoffs. That's why Indiana has been transformed. That's why programs can flip it pretty quick now. That's why Virginia may be in the playoffs this year because they nailed the portal last year. So the ability to recruit is important, but to go out and get the right guys in the portal is just as important year in and year out. And Kiffin can do that.
Yeah, he's in a unique position with the homegrown talent and the ability to acquire talent through the transfer portal. Have you heard very much on the assistant coaches, especially on the defensive side, Fletcher?
I haven't. I don't know what's going to happen. I am, and this is opinion, not fact, straight opinion here. I think Blake Baker is going to be the next Tulane head coach. Blake Baker, the LSU defensive coordinator, is a former Tulane player. He's done a great job with that defense. I think Lane Kiffin would probably love to keep him. My gut tells me he's going to be Tulane's next head coach.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any Lane Kiffin stories that you have been telling people in New Orleans?
I really, I don't, because so here's the thing. We cover LSU, certainly, but Saints, Pelicans, Tulane are our bread and butter. LSU is a big deal for us, but Lane Kiffin he's never coached with the Saints. He's never, he had a brief stint in the NFL with the Raiders. So he's bounced around at various, Ole Miss, Alabama, Florida Atlantic. But his dad coached. The only thing I talked to is Jim Mora is our Saints analyst here. Monty Kiffin was on Jim Mora's staff for 1 year in 1995. Go back 30 years. And Monty Kiffin was on Jim Mora's staff. And Jim Mora told me he really liked him. He was a really good coach. But he jumped on the Mora staff for 1 year. Then he jumped to a better opportunity. And so Mora goes, I like Monty. We stayed in touch. But he goes, he didn't move his family here. Lane didn't come here. So I really don't have a lot of like Lane Kiffin stories that people have told me or shared with me.
Yeah, last minute and a half, Fletcher. What about the quarterback situation at LSU?
Look, I'll be interested to see what Lane Kiffin does. LSU has Michael Van Buren, who obviously done some nice things. Backed up Nussmeier, came from Mississippi State, SEC experience. Look, Trinidad Chambliss is trying to get another year through the NCAA. Obviously, maybe he follows his coach after the playoffs in Ole Miss. That's going to be fascinating. If not, here's the thing. Like I said, Lane Kiffin is an offensive innovator who develops quarterbacks, who runs a great offense. He is not going to have a hard time with LSU's money and resources, his acumen, and his history of going and pulling a star quarterback from some other program out the portal.
Fletcher, where can folks find you?
On X, I am Fletcher at Fletcher WDSU. I am here in New Orleans on TV every day.
Hey, Fletcher Mackel, the award-winning sports reporter, anchor at WDSU Channel 6 NBC affiliate in New Orleans. We thank you very much, and we'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. Hi, I'm AP Stedham with Dr. Northcutt of Robertsdale Dental Care.
AP, not only do we offer basic full-service dental treatment, but I also have developed a niche within the practice where I provide comprehensive dental implant services, such as single implants, bone grafting, and full mouth reconstruction. I've been highly trained in those disciplines to offer comfortable and long-lasting solutions to major dental problems.
Come by and see Dr. Northcutt at Robertsdale Dental Care. And we're back with AP as we see it, and we'd like to thank our two guests. Segment 2 was Molly Harrell of the Broyles Award, the granddaughter of the legendary University of Arkansas head football coach, and a director of athletics, Frank Broyles, and also Fletcher Mackel of WDSU NBC TV Channel 6, New Orleans. We had that discussion about Lane Kiffin arriving in Baton Rouge to coach the LSU Bengal Tigers. So we'd love to thank them. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets, 29 locations, over 100 years serving the Gulf Coast and beyond. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. Dr. Jason Northcutt, 251-947-3636. And also the Cortland Grand Hotel of Atlanta, Ben Giacomo and his staff. Check them out if you're looking for a place to stay in Atlanta. We'd like to continue our discussion of the SEC. One thing I'd like to bring up before we get to the SEC championship game between the University of Alabama and the University of Georgia is the SEC team records for the year and some of the interesting things that happened. If you look at the top teams, you have Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. Those are the top 4 teams. You have Texas in there, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU. They all have winning records. Those 10 teams. Tennessee's 4-4 in the conference. Mizzou's 4-4. Vandy 6-2. Oklahoma 6-2. Texas 6-2 in the conference. Texas A&M 7-1. Oklahoma 7-1. Georgia 7-1, and Alabama 7-1, of course. But when you look at the bottom teams, I think it's quite interesting for people who have not followed it through the year outside of the Southeastern Conference that a team like Kentucky, they took Georgia in the overtime game versus Kentucky. Florida beat Texas. Okay, Auburn took Alabama to a close game. Mississippi State took Tennessee and Texas to close ball game. That was at that overtime game versus Tennessee. South Carolina was ahead of Texas A&M 30-3 at halftime. Lost that ball game. They took Alabama to a tight ball game. So, and Arkansas played many close games. They just didn't have any defense to stop anybody. But I just think the SEC this year was very competitive. It's going to get more competitive with this NIL. You have all these new coaches. They're going to breathe new life into these teams and inject and infuse and excitement. So I think it's going to get more difficult. It's going to become the NFL, and they're going to beat each other up. Probably it's a cannibalization, really. But we just saw from this year, after the transfer portal, the NIL, the teams even on the bottom were able to scare teams at the top. So, like I said, there's 10 teams that had winning records in the Southeastern Conference. LSU was the only team in that group of 10 that had a losing record in the conference, 3-5. Everybody else was 4-4 or above, as we mentioned before. So I just think the SEC, it's going to continue to improve. But every week when you play against someone, you better be ready, because you better coach your team, because they're acquiring talent and they're finding where there's deficiencies and acquiring talent and improving themselves year to year. And there's some new players. There'll be new quarterbacks, of course, and that's essential. As we've always mentioned, the quarterback position on our show, or if you ever heard me speak about the game of football, because it's a quarterback-centric era on every level, high school, college, and professionally. So, but the SEC, it was fun to watch this year, week in and week out, because there were teams that you thought didn't have a chance to keep it close that really played very well against some of the top echelon teams in the conference. Those 6 teams at the bottom, they had their moments through the year. They didn't win enough games. I mean, everyone else in the bottom 6 is 2-6, 2-6 for Kentucky and Florida. Auburn, Mississippi State, and South Carolina 1-7. Arkansas 0-8. But I'm telling you, Arkansas played some tough games against people, and they had a chance to win. But defensively, they just lacked the ability to stop the other team for possession or two. So anyway, but let's look at this Alabama-Georgia game. They played in September 27th. Alabama had a big lead at halftime, 24-14, double digits, and they didn't even score the second half. So their 24 points was enough to win that ball game on the road in Athens, Georgia. If you look at the quarterback situation with Ty Simpson, he was 24 for 38, 276 yards, and 2 TDs. Georgia ran for over 200 yards. Gunnar Stockton, a good quarterback, what we saw all year, he was very efficient in the games against the top teams in the conference. But he only threw the ball 20 times because they were running so well. Bowen had 119 yards, 9.9 yards per carry average, 1 TD. Alabama ended up with 397 total yards, Georgia 357. So, but Alabama was 13 for 19 on third down. That was probably the key to the ball game, I would say. And they had 77 plays. Georgia only had 53 plays. Georgia was for third down. They only had eight third down attempts. They were successful in just 2. Plus, Georgia had a fumble as well. So I think this game will be tight. Like I said, Alabama needs to win this ball game probably, because they don't want to put it in the hands of the committee to have to choose between these other teams and conferences. And Georgia right now is probably around a 2.5 point favorite, 1.5 some places, but it's going to be competitive. I know Georgia wants to beat Alabama because Kirby Smart is 1-7 versus Alabama, and he wants to put some confidence in his program moving forward that they can beat Alabama, because I'm sure they'll play down the road in another championship probably. But Kirby Smart, he just has not been able to beat Alabama. He's 0-2 against the current Alabama coach, Kalen DeBoer, which was highly unlikely if you look back to last year when they took a huge lead over in Tuscaloosa, and then again they took a big lead and held on to win. Alabama did, but Alabama held Georgia just 7 points in the second half, and Georgia shut out Alabama. So there have been interesting games. I think Georgia plays a little bit tight against Alabama. I guess subconsciously, consciously, Kirby Smart, since he's only been successful winning one game, maybe it, like I said, maybe subconsciously it affects his coaching and his team. but it should be an excellent ball game in Atlanta, Georgia, this Saturday, later in the afternoon. We have all those conference championships, the Big 12, the Big 10. I can't wait to watch that game. Indiana, number 2 versus Ohio State, 2 undefeated teams. There's a likelihood, possibly, if you look at these college football rankings, that you might have a team. You might have 3 teams, possibly. I don't know if this could happen, but you might have 3 teams maybe hosting a game from the Big Ten in the first round buys. So they won't. They'll be the home team, but they won't host the game because they have the buys and they play on the road for the next game. Only the first round plays on the campus sites. But I just think that would be remarkable for the Big Ten to have 3 teams with a bye. I think the SEC possibility that they get one of those buys as well, but I wouldn't doubt that the Big Ten possibly gets 3 buys for the first weekend of the college football playoffs. I can't wait to see if Alabama beats Georgia again. Like I said, the game means more to Alabama at this point. Because they don't want to leave it in the hands of the committee, as I stated. But Georgia, there's a strong incentive to beat Alabama. You recruit against them for the same players, your neighboring state. There's a rivalry that's been generated the last about 15 years or so. And Kirby Smart, like I said, he's successful against everybody else. He's really dominated them. If you look at some of his rival teams, Tennessee and Auburn and others, and the other teams within the conference as well. So I'm sure that he's not even discussing his record against Alabama at this point, but he's just trying to get his team to win the ball game, because it's important if you look in the future, because Alabama and Georgia, they're going to be competing against each other for the players, for the championships, regular season, when they get a chance to play each other within this round robin 9-game schedule. So, but Georgia, they run the ball very well. Are they going to continue to, I want to see if Georgia can get a lead against Kalen DeBoer. It hasn't happened so far. The 2 times they've played, they went back and forth a little bit in this game here in September, but Alabama took the lead going into the half, 24-14, and hung on, just held Georgia to that 7 points in the third quarter. So, but I want to see if Georgia can get a lead and see how they play from that position instead of always being behind against Alabama, usually by double digits as well. So, but Alabama and Georgia, big ball game in the SEC for a lot of reasons, for bragging rights, for competition in recruiting, for a college football playoff berths. But I just think that Alabama needs to win this ball game to control their own destiny and not leave it in the hands of the committee, which we know, and we've seen this in the past. No matter these rankings that they have leading up to the final weekend, they make that decision. People can jump, move around. They come up with a final conclusion of their entire season. Head-to-head matters, I think, personally. If there's a question of a tiebreaker, that's one of their guidelines, one of their premises, but the committee does some unusual things. I'll just leave it at that, some strange things. But anyway, thank you for listening to this edition of AP As We See It, and we'll be back next week, and we look forward to a discussion after the college football playoff berths are decided, and we'll be back next week with another edition of AP As We See It. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.